Hi, everybody. I just wanted to go through the assignment and outline what my expectations are and talk a little bit more about the speeches before you get into analyzing them. So what we're going to do today is a kind of close reading, but it's not going to be the same. We're not going to be looking for the same things or writing the same kind of annotations as we usually do. This is going to be a close reading specifically dedicated to looking at deliberative rhetoric and categorizing the ways that Brutus and Antony try to convince the citizens of Rome during their funerary speeches. So just to go through very quickly, all you need to do is put in a little number, and then on the notes, you can keep a running list of the numbers. So the notes don't necessarily need to match up with the lines. In fact, they probably won't. But as long as you just keep popping through and adding in your annotations that correspond to the numbers, that'll be the way to do it. It's kind of Chicago style, like with footnotes or whatever. I will say I have it as a superscript here, which is a fun way of doing it. But as you probably know from doing Chicago and from doing chemistry, if you're working on a Chromebook, the superscript shortcut doesn't really work. It'll put you into superscript, but it'll also zoom your screen in, which is a really annoying feature. So you don't have to put it in as a superscript. You can also just make your text colored and put it in as a colored number 2. That definitely works for me. Whatever works for you. But then you keep this running list. So let's take a look at my example real quickly. Brutus begins his speech, right? They've gathered Caesar has died. People are aware Caesar has died, and they gather to as a funeral for Caesar. And Brutus begins his speech with Romans, countrymen, and lovers, which is a kind of odd way of addressing people. But if we think about it, Brutus conspired to kill a rather respected and admired leader, and he is going to be in the hot seat. So he begins his speech in a way that rouses strong emotions. This is an appeal to pathos. He tries to get the patriotic emotions of the citizens. He does not address them as common peasants, rabble, people who don't know any better. He addresses them as Romans, countrymen, and lovers. They are not just citizens of Rome. They are lovers of Rome. They are lovers of each other. They are people with strong emotions and good opinions, right? If they believe that Brutus sees them as noble lovers, they're probably going to want to listen to him. So you can see that, from the first line, these speeches are laced with deliberative rhetoric. They are trying to convince people to see their side of the issue. Brutus is trying to convince them to note that, what I did, not so bad. You will benefit from what I did. I have done it as much for you as I've done it for myself. And then Antony comes in, and Antony really is a master of deliberative rhetoric. And you'll see when you get to his speech, and I admit his speech is rather long, but you will see that he really, really knows how to lay it on thick. And as you know, because you've read the scene, the result is the citizens side with Antony. I've left in the citizens' dialogue here and there when it isn't too repetitive, or when I think it's really important, right? This second citizens line really solidifies what the commoners are starting to think with Antony's speeches. However, sometimes I've left it out, and I've just noted the page number where you can go back and look at it. I think keeping the PDF up in a separate tab during this assignment is a really good idea, because there are oftentimes you're going to want to check in with the quote-unquote translation. That being said, this is going to be an assignment for today and tomorrow. I think this is about an hour and a half assignment, and tomorrow I'm also definitely going to be available in the chat for questions. My emails are always open as well. Take your time with this and really go through each line. I'm not going to say that there's deliberative rhetoric in every single line, but there's deliberative rhetoric in the majority of this, and I want you to really be familiar with recognizing it and knowing how to label it. Just note too, if you think that a label is enough and you don't need to explain yourself, you can just put the label in. I put this explanation here to show you why this is pathos, and if you have another one where you're like, hey, I'm not really sure that this is the best example of ethos, but I think it is because of this, then I would add in a little explanation. And you do not need to worry about other kinds of literary devices, because that's not really what we're looking at today. So that is the assignment. Go through, enjoy this beautiful language, and I will talk to you if you need help.